Good morning. Love our family Sundays when all of our kiddos are here in the auditorium with us. It's an opportunity for you as parents to show your children what big church is, how it works. Y'all got more gifts left? I want some. No, I'm kidding. You can have them. It's also an opportunity for you to be able to worship with your kids, worship with your family. And then if you happen to have a runner, like a kid who does laps, it's an opportunity for you to help your kids learn how to sit down. It'll be great, all right? No, I'm teasing. It's all good. We're glad you're here this morning. Glad to have Family Sunday. And I'm going to share a little bit here in a minute, get the kids a little bit involved. And I've got some gifts for the kids at the end, so you guys can pay attention. It'll be really, really cool this morning, all right? We are in week number 2 of our series entitled, To My Friend Who Left the Faith. How many of y'all were here last week? You were here last week or watched online? Cool. All right, good deal. Let me give you a little bit of a quick introduction to it. The title of the series is based on a book by the name, a guy by the name of Wade Bearden, who he actually wrote this book to a friend of his. He wrote it as a letter. The entire book is a letter to his friend who stepped away from the faith. They grew up very, very similar, and then there was an incident, a church hurt incident in their lives. Wade stayed in the church and grew up in that. His friend stepped away from the faith, and this book is kind of written after that. As I read it, and as God kind of stirred me to be able to do this series, we sent out mailers. I gave you guys a bunch of these cards. A bunch of you asked for more of these. As you leave today, out in the lobby on a table, there's a bunch of these that are sitting out there. If you want to pick up more and give them out, there's 2 more weeks after today left in the series, so feel free to do that. And we can do it. Also, one other thing before I get going, I want to remind you that today's offering is our missions and outreach offering. So if you gave today, and some of you are going like, oh no, I put my tithe in, that's fine. This week, no matter what's given, if it's your tithe, your regular offering, whatever it is, everything given today goes to missions and outreach. We're going to give that away. We're not using it internally for anything. It's going to be given away to do missions and outreach in our community. So we do this once a year. We set a goal for $20,000, which sounds crazy, but y'all did about $17,000 last year, so let's see what God does. And either way, we're going to still give it away, whatever's given. So if you didn't get a chance to give and you're like, dog, you can still give online, you can drop on the offering boxes, do that as God leads you to do, okay? Let's jump into this. Here's the series. Last week, we answered a very tough question about this idea of leaving the faith. We answered a question about why is the church so mean to sinners? Put that in quotation marks. This week, the question is going to sound similar, but it's going to be a little different. I'm going to see if I can help you understand. Here's the question. They'll put it up on the screen for you. Here it is. If Christianity is so great, why do so many Christians act so terrible? It's a tough question. There was a poll that was done, and I wrote it down so I don't want to mess it up, so I'm going to read it to you. There was a poll that was done a few years ago that the Barna Research Group put out, and they asked non-Christians, or people that didn't attend church, people that have left the faith. The Barna Research put together this poll, and they asked why people rejected Christianity. 85% of the people who took this poll checked because Christians are hypocrites. Everybody say the word hypocrite. I'm going to help our kids today, maybe some of our adults. The word hypocrite in the original language, it's a Greek word, not just because we use the Bible and the Bible is written in Greek, but it was actually a Greek word, and it's Hippokrates or something. I can't say Greek, I just read it like you do. But the word actually comes from a derivative of the word actor. Do you know what an actor is? An actor is someone who acts like something they're not. Whatever your favorite TV show is, I saw somebody come in first service and they had a Grey's Anatomy sweatshirt on. That must be their favorite. Whatever your favorite show is, whatever your favorite actor is, that's not really them. They are acting a part. In Greek theater, they would wear masks, which is the reason that I have a mask this morning. And for all of our kiddos, you're going to get a mask today. I've got all kinds of different colors. Some of them are animals because I couldn't get all the same ones. So some of them are these, some of them are these, some of them are different ones. But they're masks because in Greek theater, a lot of times one actor would play multiple parts. A lot of times they would play the male part and the female part and another part. And what they would do is just switch mask back and forth. So every kid today, I've got a bucket up here. When we end, I'll get some help, and we've got some masks and the elastic things to put them on. And this is what I want our children to do. I want our children to put these masks on, and when you get home today, you run to your parents and you go, I'm a hypocrite. That's what I want you to say to your parents. Will y'all do that with me? The kids are going to say, I'm a hypocrite. And the parents are going to say, I am too. So, I want you to grab some of these for the kids today. So, kiddos, y'all get a free mask today for coming to church. And when I was thinking about masks, I was like, gosh, aren't we sick of wearing masks? But these are different, all right? So, here's the idea. The number one reason, 85% of people polled said the reason they don't want to be part of church is because the church is full of hypocrites. So, we're going to answer that question today. We're going to see if we can give you a little bit of direction. I'm not sure I'm going to get everything right. Matter of fact, if you know me, I'm not going to get everything completely right. But I think often the reason the church misses in this area is because we've missed what God said to do. I'm certainly going to use the Bible this morning. I always do. I'm going to use a few excerpts out of this book that I've read. It's really good. I encourage you to, if you want to read it, you get it and read it. But I'm going to use a bunch of different things that Jesus said. I'm going to use some of Jesus' words today that are written across different passages in the Bible, so you'll be able to follow along, but we're not going to stay with one particular section today. But I think often the church or Christians, we've been accused of not living the way we believe. See, a hypocrite is someone who acts like something else. And Christians oftentimes don't live like what we're told we're supposed to live. Jesus said these words. Jesus said in the book of John, he said, a new commandment I give to you. Love one another. Love one another. Jesus didn't say go out and fight wars. Jesus didn't say go out and set up a political party. Jesus didn't say go out and protest against everything. He said love one another. Now, if I ask the question, what are churches and Christianity most known for? Our love or what we're against? A lot of times in the world, it's what we're against. And listen, we're just going to be straight up, all right? In the last few election cycles in the United States, Christians have been used as a voting bloc. And we have been told that if you're a good Christian, you vote this particular way. And if you're not a good Christian, then you must be voting this way. Or you're probably not even a Christian if you vote this way, which is just not true. We need Christians across every single party and every single line. We need Christians to represent in every way whatsoever, but we've been put in a category. And it's wrong. So, Jesus said, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. Now, how was it Jesus loved us? Oh yeah, he died for us and served. By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. So how is the world and people who have left the faith and people that are non-Christians or non-church people, how are they ever going to view Christians and see if we're real? By one thing, by the way we love. Not by anything else, but by the way they love, by the way we love. So let me give you a statement as I get going this morning. You'll put it up on the screen. It says this. It says the first thing that we must do is be willing to admit that we don't act like Jesus very well sometimes. Did anybody identify with that? Any Christians in here today that would say, oh me, instead of amen? Oh me. I'm there. There's a lot of time. If you think that you've come to church and this guy's one of the pastors at the church and he must have it all together, I would encourage you. I live in Fletcher, which means I have to get on I-26 to go home. I would encourage you to get anywhere around me in my car when I'm driving home this afternoon. It's not very Christ-like in any direction on I-26. I try. Sometimes I turn Christian music on and it helps my heart. I don't act like Jesus very well sometimes. And a lot of Christians don't. A lot of Christians have messed this up. There's a book that I read a few years ago called Blue Like Jazz. It's the writer is a guy by the name of Donald Miller, and he wrote about when he was in college. He was a Christian. Some of his friends were Christians, and they went to a very public university, a very liberal university. There wasn't a lot of Christians. Christians were basically marked as hypocrites on the campus because a lot of the people who called themselves Christians would try to invite you to church or to the worship service, and then they would be the ones partying on Friday night and getting drunk. So Donald Miller and his friends, and he wrote about this in his book. If you want to grab that one, it's a good one too. But he wrote about in the book that they had this idea. They got together and they began to pray for their campus and began to say, how can we share the gospel? So this is the idea that they came up with. They put confessional booths on their campus. Doesn't that sound exciting to reach people who have given up on the faith? But they did one of the coolest things ever. They set up confessional booths, and when people would come into the confessional booths, Donald and some of his friends would sit on the other side of the booth, and instead of taking confession from the people coming in, they would begin to confess all the things that Christianity has done wrong over the years. That's pretty cool. We got to realize, a lot of times when people outside of the faith, or people say, I don't want anything to do with the faith, or people that were, got saved when they were kids or heard about Jesus, and maybe somewhere along the way they just got frustrated, and they've just had to break down their faith and say, I don't know where this fits, and this is what mom and dad said, and this is what grandma said, and this is how the old pastor used to preach, but I'm just not sure. One of the reasons they pull so far away, well, I think I heard it said one time, the reason I don't go to church anymore is because I've been. Let me see if I can give you some reasons this morning. And again, I'm going to use a couple of different places where Jesus talked, not necessarily sticking with one story, just different places where Jesus talked. And I want to give you, I'm going to give you 4, all right? This is kind of cool. So you guys that are going, when is he going to finish? Count to 4, all right? When I get to the 4th one, I'll be almost done, all right? If Christianity is so great, why do so many Christians act so terrible? Let me give you 4 really, really simple reasons. Here's the first one. Number 1, this is the first reason. Many Christians, in quotation marks, aren't really Christians at all. See, a lot of times, well, let me just say it this way. There's a lot of people who come to church just for the window dressing. Just so you can check it off a list. I'm sure it's not people here, it's probably at other churches. But there's a lot of people come to church and they say, well, I'm a Christian, but there's nothing in your life that has ever been changed. You've never had a change in your life. See, Christianity without change is not Christianity. A life doesn't ever turn to Jesus unless something changes in your life. And there are a lot of people who attend church every single week. Oh, they might be the ones that lift their hand the highest. The pastor comes out and says, we're doing a missions and outreach offering. And you're like, ooh, I can help the community. And it's really, really good. And you've got good morals and you're a good person. And it's good to be kind. But kind is not enough. And the reason, I think one of the reasons that the church has looked at and many people have left the faith is because many Christians aren't really Christians. Jesus said these words in Matthew 7. He said, watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. Christians look like sheep and smell like sheep, but there's a lot of them that aren't sheep. By their fruit, you'll recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit. But a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit. And a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. A lot of fruit and trees here. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them. And there are people who step inside of the church and they say, yes, I'm a Christian, but there is no fruit in their lives. There is nothing that separates them from someone who is not a Christian. There is nothing there, and all you got to do is look at the fruit. And a lot of times the church itself has been put in a category of that's just a bunch of hypocrites when some of the people they're not really Christians anyway. Jesus continues, he says, not everyone who says to me, catch this, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. But only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, on judgment day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Jesus said that there are a lot of people who have stepped up and said, I am a Christian, but they've never really changed. They've never really given their life to Jesus. There's never been a difference. And unfortunately, a lot of times, that's the representation that you get from the church. That's why Jesus used to warn whenever the Pharisees, the religious people of his day, that's why he would warn a lot and say, don't follow them, follow God. Don't. Christianity is not about good advice to help good people lead moral lives. Christianity, it's about salvation. It's about Jesus, who he was and what he did. Let me give you something really cool that Mr. Bearden wrote in this book. Listen to this. He says, it's often those who have adopted this cultural form of Christianity. Listen, it's kind of cool to be a Christian sometimes. We got good music and light shows and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of cool. And a lot of people just come in and went, well, I did my church stuff. I'm a Christian. Now I can go live however I want to. Well, he says about this, here's the problem. Listen to this that he said. He said, for instance, several years ago, a poll was taken that showed that the lifestyle activities of Christians were statistically the same as those people claiming not to be Christians when it came to the following list. Listen to this list he gave. When it came to this list, people that were not Christians statistically were the exact same as people who called themselves Christians. When it came to gambling, visiting pornographic websites, taking something that didn't belong to them, saying mean things behind someone's back, consulting a medium or a psychic, having a physical fight or abusing someone, using illegal or non-prescription drugs, saying something to someone that's not true, getting back at someone for something they did, and consuming enough alcohol to be drunk. In all of those statistics, Christians and non-Christians were exactly the same. Matter of fact, this is kind of funny. There was no statistical difference between a Christian and a non-Christian in those 10 areas. The only activity that was less common for Christians was recycling. We don't recycle as much as non-Christians. That was it. In every other area, Christians and non-Christians look exactly the same. Well, why in the world would somebody who stepped away from the faith not think anything other than, why would I go there? They say that they're different. They say that they believe something. They say that they'd give their life for people. They say that they love Jesus. But they're exactly the same that I am. Must be a bunch of hypocrites. So, first reason, there's a lot of people that call themselves Christians that aren't really Christians. Here's the second one. Many times, Christianity didn't get it right, and it still doesn't get it right. So listen to me. Many people, and listen, I've heard pastors over the years, and I've done it. I've taught through different books of the Bible, and I still do. I love the Bible. I love to teach through books of the Bible. If you're not a Bible person, the book of Acts in the New Testament, ACTS, Acts is the Acts of the early church. And a lot of preachers, a lot of people will stand up and they'll preach through the book of Acts, and they'll say, what we got to do is we got to get back to the early church. We got to get back to the book of Acts. We got to do it the way that they did it in the beginning because they did it right. No, they didn't. Do you know that the only reason that deacons were ever established in the church is because Christians quit taking care of widows? Oh, they did. Oh, they took care of the widows, but only certain widows. They said, we're going to take care of the Jewish widows, but those Greek and Gentile widows, we're not going to take care of them. And therefore, the disciples had to step in and go, what are you doing? We got to take care of everybody. So they established something called deacons in a church. Listen, the church messed up a lot of things. They messed up the Lord's Supper. That was supposed to be set aside for the church to come together. And there was one particular church that started making it a love feast. That's creepy. And they started doing all kinds of things. There's another church that Paul wrote a letter to where one of the members of the church was sleeping with his stepmother. Sounds like they had everything going right, didn't it? They didn't. Don't just sit back and go, well, if we'd go this. No, listen. Over time, Christianity hasn't gotten everything right. Let me come outside of the Bible for just a second. You ever heard of the Crusades? No, any history people in here? Listen, if we got to be correct. I'm kind of a history geek, all right? So if you go back and you realize the people who stood up and said, we're doing this for God, it wasn't really about God. It was about power and money. But they used the name of God and said, we're going to do this. And they slaughtered thousands and thousands of Muslims in the name of the Church of England, the Catholic Church, and said, we're going to go out. And it was for God. It was all done there. Then there was times in our history in America, history around the world, where the church, because of God, said that we've got to burn women who are witches. So they would burn women and call them and say they're witches. Or my favorite, that sounds like terrible. That's not my favorite. It was the weirdest thing in the world. They would take women when they were accused of being witches. They would tie them up and tie a stone around them, and they would throw them into a deep lake. And they would say, if they survive, then they're witches, and we should burn them to death. If they don't survive, then they weren't witches. Yeah, either way, they're dead. That was in the name of God. Oh, and let's not beat up all that past history before. Maybe let's go a little bit, it's a little closer. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 60s, in 1963, when he was in prison in Montgomery, Alabama, he wrote letters out of that prison. And in one of his letters, I was just reading this a couple of weeks ago in a different book, and he wrote in a letter that one of the things he was looking most forward to was getting out of prison. Because he knew that the white church was going to stand with the black church, and they were going to stand up for people's rights. What he discovered when he got out of jail was that the white church in the South wanted nothing to do with the black church in the South, and segregation continued to a horrible point. So you think Christianity's always gotten it right? No, we haven't. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of things we don't get right now. There's a lot of things we mess up on. There's a lot of times that we jump out and we say, oh, if you're a Christian, you've got to think this way. When in reality, it's about Jesus, not about that. And we mess up a lot. Jesus said these words. He said, you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. And how many times have we gotten out and said, we're against something, we need to fight wars, we need to do all this because of God? Back in, I don't remember the exact date, I just read it the other day, John Lennon wrote the song Imagine. Y'all know the song Imagine? It's a really cool melody and an interesting song. But he wrote the song saying, could we imagine what the world would be like if there was no religion? On John Lennon's, I think it was his 30th or 40th anniversary of his death, while people were gathered in New York City to celebrate John Lennon's death, and they all sang the song Imagine, there was another group of people gathered in California. It was the National Society of Atheists in America that ended in a riot. It's not just Christianity that's messed stuff up, all right? And anybody who stands up and says, because of Christianity, I'm going to hurt people, I'm going to tear people down, I'm going to stand this way, I'm going to tell, no. Matter of fact, that's completely against what Jesus said. He said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. It doesn't mean that we don't stand out and we say, listen, we believe in Jesus. We believe that when Jesus came to this earth, he was a real historical person. Not only was he a real historical person, he was somebody who claimed to be the Son of God, and he really was the Son of God. He is the only recorded person ever on the earth who said, I am the Son of God, I am going to die, and 3 days later I'm going to rise again, and then 3 days later he rose again. Whatever jersey he's wearing, I'm putting that one on. That's Jesus. But we try to separate everything. And listen, Christianity hasn't always gotten it right. Christianity has often gotten it wrong in things that we've stood for and stood against. So, if you're somebody who's left the faith and said, that's why, can I just be one pastor that goes, I get it. I get it. Here's the third one. Many Christians, maybe some of this is you, I don't know. Maybe it's just going to the people that are watching online. Many Christians have forgotten that we're called to be salt and light. Jesus doesn't call us to be anything else other than salt and light. Let me see if I can explain that a little bit. Jesus said these words. He said, you're the salt of the earth. If salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. When Jesus says he wants us to be the salt of the earth, salt in the first century was a valuable, valuable commodity. It was something that, yes, offered seasoning. It was also the way that they preserved food, the way that they preserved life in those times. And when salt began to lose its saltiness, what they would typically do is take it out and throw it in the manure fields just to break down the manure that it was there. So maybe what Jesus is saying, if you can't do anything else, just break the manure down. I'm not exactly sure what he was saying. But I think a lot of Christians have forgot it's our responsibility to go into the world and not stand up and picket and go against everything, but instead be salt. Offer the flavor, preserve, point people. And then he says this in the same passage. He says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. For too long and too many times, and if you feel like I'm picking on Christians or picking on you today, I'm not. I would only say if this is you or this has been you, just recognize it. Jesus said we're supposed to be salt and we're supposed to be light. People are supposed to know us by the way we love, by the way we care for others. Do you know why? Listen to this. Do you know why the early church began to grow so quickly? It wasn't because they had a copy of the Bible. It wasn't because they didn't. It wasn't because they could quote John 3:16, because John was still walking around with them. It wasn't because they had big buildings with lights. Do you know why the early church took off? Listen, one of the things that would happen in the first century is people would abandon their children. If you had a baby girl instead of a baby boy, many times, and there's recordings of this in history, you can find them, that many times that if there was a girl that was born, the husband, the dad, would send a letter home. Maybe he was out at war, out in the field or something, he would send a letter, and he said, if it's a boy, bring him up and do right. If it's a girl, put her out in the forest and let her die. They would separate and put all these things, and this is what Christians would do in the first century. All right, they didn't get everything right. This is something they would do. Christians would go and they would find abandoned children. They would find abandoned children, they would bring them into their homes, and they would take care of them, and they would bring them up, and the world around them didn't know why they would do that, because you think it costs a lot to raise a kid today? It cost a lot then. And Christians would do that. Christians began to step into places and provide food and provide housing and provide light and salt wherever they went. That's why Jesus says, if you're not being salt and light, you're not being what I called you to do. And I think I'm ashamed to say to my friends who have left the faith, I haven't been a good representation of that at times. And I'm sorry. So I've given you 3 reasons. Let me give you a 4th one, and this one might be a little funny, but maybe it'll help you out a little bit. They'll put it up on the screen. Many Christians are trying to live. We're trying. Can y'all say, I'm trying? I mean, I want you to say it with a whiny voice. Maybe your hand's in your pocket. Go, come on, I'm trying. Come on, do it with me. You ready? I'm trying. All right. Many Christians are trying to live as Jesus asked us to do. For those of you that have left the faith, can you cut us some slack? I don't know why I wrote that on there. It just felt right to me when I put it on there and gave it to the slides to put up, because it kind of felt like I was saying, hey, for all of you that we haven't given grace to, will y'all offer us a little grace? See, the church can be a messy, difficult place. The church is a place that's unusually messy, because if a church is doing what it's supposed to do, we welcome messy. You know what that means? That means there's going to be people in the church that aren't like you. Because obviously you're the good one, right? There's going to be people different than you. There's going to be people sitting on different sides of the church that think different ways, maybe that vote different ways, maybe that think different about alcohol, that think different about things in life. They might just have a little bit different thought process than you. But one of the coolest things about the church is we are a group of people that we don't actually think exactly the same in life, but we come together under one banner, Jesus. And that's where we need to be unified. I've read so many online articles and seen so many websites, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing about denominations breaking with this church or this church did this and this church did this and this church did this. And listen, we can spend the rest of eternity pointing out what people are doing wrong. Or we can say, are you with Jesus? Because if you're with Jesus, I'm with you. And we can move in that direction. And there's a lot of us that are trying. So I am sincerely asking, and I think it's the reason I wrote it that way. I'm sincerely asking, if you're somebody or know somebody who has stepped away from the faith, I think one of the best ways to approach it is go, man, we're trying. We're trying. We just mess up sometimes. The non-religious answer to hypocrisy is to leave the church and just be kind. And I understand that sentiment, but just being kind won't save your life for eternity. See, and I'm going to say this, and I hope it's not hurtful, but I'm going to let it sit, okay? If you step away from the faith, if you've stepped away and you've said, the church is a bunch of hypocrites, and listen, I can be funny and I can go, yes, the church is a bunch of hypocrites, come on and join us, you'll fit right in. And there's truth in that, but I don't want to be callous when I say this. If you are someone who has stepped away from church and stepped away from the faith, and you said, I've watched it and I've watched it and I've watched it and they're no different, listen, You're taking the easy way out. I hope that settles where it needs to. You're taking the easy way out. See, this is the hard way. We don't have it all together. You want to pull history against us? Anybody want to talk about the Crusades? Sure. Man, the ones who said that, they didn't do right. Burning people? Yeah, that wasn't very God, Christ-like. Segregation? The 60s? Today? Political parties? Yeah, that's not right. It's easy back here to go, I don't want to be a part of that. They're a bunch of hypocrites. It's really hard to get right here in the middle of this and go, we haven't got it all together. Man, we're working on it. We're from different walks of life, different places, different backgrounds, different stories, different family, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Everything is different about us. And one of the coolest experiments ever is the church. Because we're a bunch of different people who meet together under one banner. And we say Jesus is the way. And we don't say Jesus is the way because we go, Jesus is the way. We say Jesus is the way because Jesus said he's the way and the truth and the life. And no man comes to the Father but by him. That's where I want to fly my flag. That's where I want to be. Let me give you this. There was a couple of things that I read in his book, and I didn't know where to put them in what I wanted to share with you guys this morning, but let me just give you a couple of them real quick. They won't be on the screens. Here's the question. Who needs the gospel? Those who are far from God need the gospel, don't they? Don't they? Would y'all agree with this? Those who are far from God need the gospel, yes? Okay. You know who else needs the gospel? Those who hear it every single week. We need it just as bad. We just need to apply it a little better. And then I think this is kind of a cool statement he makes in here. He says Christianity is either true or it isn't. It is. Listen, Christianity, following Jesus, it's either true or it's not. But just because a baseball team has a cruel bunch of fans doesn't mean that we can deny the players a championship if they earn it. If Jesus rose from the dead, he earned it. Then a group of mean people cannot take that away. I can't help but think of that when I read that statement in the book. Those of you that have been around me for very long and heard me give illustrations or been around me, you know that I am a Dallas Cowboys football fan in the NFL. Hey, there's 2 in this service. Thank you very much. There was none in first service and I almost got booed. 3. God bless you. That's like automatic pass to heaven. But anyway, all right. No, it's not. All right. I am a Cowboys fan, which if I'm a Cowboys fan, I've been a Cowboys fan forever, all right? So like from 4 years old, I'm a Cowboys fan. So if you're a Cowboys fan, there are particular teams that I don't want to use the word hate, even though I've taught my children that. I don't want to use that word, but there are teams that we hate. And one of the teams we hate the most are the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, there it is, all right? All right, welcome to Sports Rivalries. Nothing like that for an illustration in church. Now here's something funny about the Philadelphia Eagles fans. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think it was the early 70s, maybe the late 60s. They were out of the playoffs. There was no chance of them getting in the playoffs. They were playing the Minnesota Vikings. The Philadelphia owners decided, it was a couple of days before Christmas, they decided for the halftime show that they were going to bring in just all kinds of Christmas things to try to cheer people up. And they brought Santa Claus out and set him at the 50-yard line at the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, the old Vet Stadium. And the fans of the Philadelphia Eagles threw snowballs at Santa Claus. And forever, Philadelphia Eagles fans have been known as disgruntled and mean fans. And they've done horrible things. They cheer when the other team gets hurt on the field. They're just a bunch of crazy fans. Now, as a Cowboys fan, this is going to hurt so bad. They're better than us right now. They made it to the Super Bowl this year. We didn't. So, I may not like their fans, but I can't deny the fact that they're a good football team right now. I know that's silly. My Jesus that I love, that I've asked to change my life, and I've given my life to him. Not because I'm a pastor, not because I have this role on the platform. I'm a Christian. I've given my life to Jesus, and I want to serve him the rest of my life. There will come a day I'm not standing on a platform anymore, but I'm still going to be a Christian. I'm not going to walk away ever again. But I don't always get it right. Sometimes I mess up. It doesn't deny the fact that Jesus is who he says he is and that he will do what he says he's going to do. And here's your statement as I end, If a church, and this is straight out of his book, if a church is doing what it's supposed to do, then we're going to see a group of sick people getting better. Here's the line I like. Still feverish from time to time, but getting better. We are not perfect. We do not have it all together. Please do not judge my Jesus by when I mess up. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. The Apostle Paul, later on in the first century, was writing letters to churches where we get a lot of the theology that we believe today. He wrote a particular letter to a group of Christians that were in Rome under persecution, and he wrote these words in Romans chapter 12, verse 1. He said, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice." That's everything. That's your body. It wasn't like you could pull your soul out and offer that to God. That was you. That was physically. He said, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Now, let me see if I can tie that together with that statement and see if I can help you understand something. I did this years ago back when I was a student pastor. This kind of occurred to me and I shared it, and I still share it all the time. When it says to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, that was a picture of the early church, even all the way back to Moses. When Moses' time, when they established the temple, they would offer sacrifices. They would offer lambs and goats and doves and different things as sacrifice. Well, do you know what happens to the sacrifice when it goes on the altar? What happens to the sacrifice? It's burnt. That sucker's toast, all right? The offering is burnt up. But Paul encourages Christians, the church, those of us that have gathered together, he says, I encourage you to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Living is the key. Do you know what the biggest problem is with a living sacrifice? It keeps crawling off the altar. We're trying. The church is trying. But from time to time, we mess up. So Paul says, hey, I encourage you, stay put. Offer your bodies, offer your lives as a living sacrifice. And when you're tempted to crawl off, get back on and offer yourself to God. Paul says in other places that I die daily for Christ. It doesn't mean that I'm literally killing myself every single day. It means that I'm trying to destroy the things in me that don't look like Jesus so that I can represent him better. So here's where I'm going to close, all right? Maybe some of you here this morning, you came because someone invited you. And I'd encourage you guys to get these and invite more people in the weeks to come. Maybe you're somebody who's contemplated this idea of going, man, my parents were Christians, their parents were Christians. I'm in this world, but I just don't get it. And I don't even like it. I don't like what Christians represent. Can I just be very transparent and go, I get it. I really do get it. I've had a season in my life that I walked away from the faith. I shared that last week. If you want to go back and listen to the story, you can listen to it last week and get online and see it or hear it. Been there. So this morning, if you're somebody who stepped away, we're sorry. We're really sorry. We don't get this right all the time. Cut us a little slack. Maybe some of the people that you've been around that call themselves Christians really aren't Christians. Why don't you step in and make that faith yours and then see if Jesus lets you down? He won't. Oh, we're going to talk about some tough stuff in the weeks to come. Next week, if you want to be here, either service, 9 or 11 o'clock, next week's going to be probably the most difficult message in the entire series, because next week is going to answer the question, if God's love, why is there so much pain? Why is there so much suffering? That's a tough one. We all want God to just take it away. We're going to find out about it next week. I get it. Then maybe you're somebody here this morning, and that one particular reason in the middle of this message this morning hit you, and you went, you know what? I know why I don't act like a Christian, because I'm not one. Oh, I attend. I might have even said the prayer once or twice or 12 times. But I don't really have a difference in my life. I would invite you this morning, start over. Go back to the beginning and say, Jesus, I want to start with you. My relationship begins today. I am a sinner. I do believe you're God's son. I ask you to forgive me for my sins and to come into my life and to change my life. And that one decision begins a sequence of changes in your life, because without change, there's not Christianity. And then for those of us that are trying, we're trying. We mess up. We mess up. But we're trying. Come on, get on my struggle bus with me. I do too. Cut us some slack, all right? We're trying. Let me pray. God, I love you. Thank you for today. Thank you that we get to see some of these answers, God. Again, God, I'm not sure that I can answer them all to someone's complete liking, but I hope that we're offering that hope that you give. I hope that we can see where we fit in your story, because God, this really is your story. If there's somebody here today and they don't know you, and God, they just want to try faith out, oh God, let them take that first step. They can talk to me, they can talk to anybody here, and just take that first step. And then God, if there's Christians that are sitting here and they don't know how to defend this, well, quit trying to defend it and just recognize we struggle too. God, give us faith, give us strength to be able to take the steps we need to take and to be the church we need to be. We love you. It's in your name I pray.